If we go to Canvas, we are looking in the 1.3.4 panel chart video. So let's go ahead and download this file. And when you open that up, it should look like this. So here is the setup of this worksheet. So we have some data on different states and the years, sales throughout years for two different companies. So the Orange Inc. Incorporated and the Banana Incorporated. Ultimately, the goal of this video is to create this plot. So this is what's called a panel chart. So notice that we have kind of four different groups of the lines, which are our panels, one for each state, and it shows sales over time. This is the plot that we are going to create. In order to do this, we need to have the data set up in this format. So notice that this is the exact data that we have here, just kind of organized in blocks. So the first block for the first panel is for Iowa, and then we skip over, we have some blank lines, and then the next block is for Minnesota, and so on. The reason this needs to be organized like this, I will show you when we get to the actual plotting, but how we're going to do this is going to automate this process so that it is scalable, so that our template is reusable. Imagine that we have like 1 million records of data, right? We don't want to be pasting our data manually every single time. So we are going to use a pivot table to kind of hack our way into getting the data organized in this format. So the first thing that we need to do is insert a new column to our data, and this is going to be called separator. And this is just going to be a kind of indicator variable. The value of it is meaningless, but what we need is to have one value for all the columns in these first two blocks. So all the Iowa and all the Texas need to have the same value. And then the next value needs to be for the alternating blocks. So for Minnesota and Utah. So one quick way that we can do that is if we filter, we can filter to the state. So I'm going to have Iowa, and the second one is Minnesota. Nope, Texas need to have the same one. And I want the value to be 1, and then I can just autofill that down. Now, when I unfilter, we see that the ones got in the correct values. So let's go ahead and repeat that process for Minnesota and Utah. So now uncheck Iowa and Texas, and these ones need to have a value different than that. So we'll just give it a 2. Again, the value is meaningless, but we can autofill this down. And now when I unfilter, we have alternating values for the different states. So from this, we can insert a pivot table. So this is already set up as a table. So we can go ahead and insert pivot table. And we're going to put the pivot table right in this sheet right here. Okay, so if we take a look at our target data, it looks like we have states and time on the rows. And then we have the values up top. And to get that, we need to have the separator as the columns. So we're going to have separator as columns, and then state and year as the rows. And then for the values, we're going to drag both companies, so the Orange and Banana. And we see we have this kind of alternating format, exactly what we need. So now let's make one last design change. We're going to change it to tabular form. And then let's get rid of all of those subtotals. And let's also show the values for, nope, we don't need to. So we don't need to show the values for Iowa. So this is the setup that we need. We can change the number format. So let's go ahead and number format. We will make these accounting, and we'll go no decimal points so that we have some values in there. Okay, so next thing that we need to do is just copy the body of the pivot table. So this is all we need. We don't need the totals row. or the headers. We just need the body. So let's go ahead and copy that. And we're going to go to the panel chart. And this is where we're going to insert our data and create the plot. Okay, so we have our data in here. And now we need to copy the headers as well. So let's go ahead and just get the headers directly from our original data. And then we can repeat the last two. And this is the setup of the data that we need. So now let's go ahead and create our line chart. So I'm going to highlight all of these. We can also change the number format to get all of these as $signs as well, and get rid of the decimal points. So now if we insert our line chart, we'll see what we get. So insert chart, it doesn't look like from the target plot that the line chart has any markers. So we're just going to do a regular line chart, 2D line. And here is what we get. So let's make that a bit bigger. So notice here that I have in the legend, I have kind of repeat labels for orange and banana and a bunch of different lines. And then I also have a legend for state and year. I don't want to have that though. So let's go ahead and redo this chart, but let's get rid of those from the legend. The way we're going to do that is by deleting these headers. So now when we insert our line chart, we get something that's much better. So now the legend is closer to what we want, and the x-axis is also better. So now we actually have our years along the lines there, along the bottom x-axis. So next thing that we can do is going to demonstrate why we need the lines in this format, or to get the lines in this format, why we needed the data set up like this. So if I copy these values and put them in, so I'm going to copy Minnesota's and put them in the same column as the other ones, we see that it connects the lines. So this effect of panels, having one panel for each state, is created by having the set of blanks following each state. So that is the reason why we needed to have the data in this format. So the next thing we need to do is just organize our chart. So we have some repeat labels. So let's go ahead and delete the legend items for the two that we don't need. And then we need to change all of the colors, and let's actually make them representative colors. So we're going to change the banana lines to be yellow, of course. And those ones are going to be these ones. So we'll just change these one at a time, change the color to format data series. And then we'll go in the fill, and the color, we'll make that yellow. And then this one is banana as well, along with this one and that one. So we're good. So now we'll make the other ones orange. And then I also need to change the gray ones to be orange as well. And now we have our representative colors. Two more things that I can do is let's make the legend easier to see. So typically when we read plots, we start at the top left and we kind of go in a Z pattern, reverse Z. So I'm going to make the legend at the top so it's quicker for viewers to find. So format legend, we'll put it at the top. And then we'll also give it a quick title. So we are comparing revenue for these two different companies. So we will do a revenue comparison title. And this is our final panel chart that we wanted to create. So one thing that I'll point out is that there is a way, but it's very, very convoluted to get lines to actually separate the panels. But like I said, very convoluted. And we'll see later in this course when we move to Tableau and to R that there are much, much, much easier ways to create this panel effect. So that kind of adds another layer of decision making when we are making a data visual. So not only do we have to consider how to set up the data and what type of plot we're going to be making based on the data, then all of our design choices, we also want to think before we even do any of this, which tool we should use. So right now we've only covered Excel. We're going to cover 2 more tools. And for this specific plot, if this is what we want, those later tools would be perhaps better options in terms of an easier final product to make, and it will look better for this panel effect. So that is it for this video. This is just kind of a one-off comparison or a one-off application of pivot tables for tying it back into ultimately making plots. So I'll see you in the next video.